Today's lesson is part of a bigger sequence, which is the writing process. So today is the body paragraph. So it just sort of came after the introduction. We're going to do peer review. It's basically to chunk and slow down the writing process. So that's just wanting them to be able to self-reflect on the peer edits and look at the rubric. The main outcome will be that they get a peer-reviewed intro and body, and that they self-reflect against the rubric to do their own edits for our next class, which is tomorrow. So the main objective is they come in tomorrow with a completely peer-reviewed, self-edited essay, and then they can move ahead to the conclusion tomorrow, which we haven't really learned about yet. They don't know what to put in it. We're just going piece by piece. So they have a planning doc that's due today, which is very much a graphic organizer, so we can check that for completeness and correctness to some extent, although it's not graded as a final piece. And then after the peer edits, they'll have time, hopefully today, to respond to the peer edits and start drafting, and we can look at that. Any of their digital docs we can peek at anytime, so we can sort of just check whenever we want, informally. Formally, it'll be due tomorrow with the conclusion, and we'll have teacher feedback, and then their next class, they'll have to respond to that teacher feedback and have a final draft. So most of the checks right now are peer checks and self-checks. Then there'll be a teacher review tomorrow night, and then they'll have one last chance. So expectations are pretty standard. We spent a lot of time at the beginning of the year setting basic expectations for the flow of the class. So school-wide, you'll see them do a do now, right? So they know what to do and the expectation for that. Expectation for the peer review process that we're going to use, we've done before. So they know what's expected of them. They're on each other's digital documents, so we need to be very clear that they're not changing anything, messing with anything. And again, we've done this twice before, so some of those expectations are in place. They sort of self-monitor, especially when they're in groups. They'll check each other and keep each other on task, which again is using the community as a tool for learning. And we have also technology that allows us to look at their screens in the worst case. So at that time when they're independently to be working on their essays, and you can only see so many screens, we have a tool that lets us see all the monitors at once, which is a quick, just glance. If anybody's off task, you can see it, it'll stick out. We don't tend to use that much, but especially with the deadline coming up, they'll tend to be on, but it's there. So there's a lot of different tools. There's also 3 teachers in the room, 2 to 3, the third one will come in later. So just having that movement and an extra set of eyes helps to keep kids on task, and also lets them ask us questions if they need, since there's so many of us moving so freely. We see that, if they don't know what to do or they don't know the answer, that's when they'll go off task and misbehave. But with so many of us and a fluid movement, they can readily ask any of us for help, so that helps with misbehavior too. Our overall essential question is, how can I use my literary skills to communicate powerfully with others? That's overall ELA, all English classes. Specifically today would be, how can they use these other tools to improve their writing? So again, the rubric they haven't seen before today, and that's mainly just so that they don't freak out. If we gave it to them before they even started writing, they'd kind of stifle their writing. So after they've gotten a few parts of the essay down to give them the rubric, then they can still adjust it. So yeah, how can they use those outside tools, rubric and the peer, to improve their writing? Well, they'll be working collaboratively from the very beginning on a task to look at the rubric. Then they'll be in different groups to peer review. So that's engaging them with one another, which we try to do as much as possible in our classroom, use the community as a tool for learning. So that'll happen in 2 different ways today. And then they'll have some time on their own to just sort of digest and work independently. So it's engaging in the sense that some students like to work on their own, some like to work together. The lesson yesterday leading to this one had videos and other tools, so we try to teach to all different learning styles. So hopefully that alone makes it more engaging versus just receiving information from a lecture or a textbook, or just giving them the rubric to figure out. They're actually going to digest it and learn about it as a group or pair. Well, mainly our students jump ahead in the writing process, right? They don't see it as steps, stages. They wouldn't peer review on their own unless they were sort of told to that that's a step in the process. They might not even look at the rubric unless it's part of the process. So it's meaningful in the sense that it's sort of modeling the writing process for them in steps that they can digest, right, in chunks, and hopefully then they internalize it and do it again. The writing process obviously isn't limited to English, so ideally they can apply this across all content areas. But again, they tend to jump ahead to just their final draft, one-time writing, and that's it. So meaningful in the sense that they'll hopefully see other ways that they can use different tools, in this case the rubric, and their peers to improve their writing.